Hello, everybody. My name is Gabby from She Makes It Work, and today we're going to be talking about Feel Good Productivity by Ali Abdaal. And I had been wanting to read this book. Like many of you, I have been watching Ali's YouTube journey and enjoying his videos. And so I was really excited to get an idea of what he was going to be messaging in the book. All right. So I do want to go ahead and preface this by saying I am a very productive person in my life. I have really focused on just my ability to get quite a few things done in a limited amount of time. And so I've been doing this for a really long time. I obviously was a leader in the corporate world and at the same time a published author and had multiple podcasts. I just tend to do a lot with my time. And in order to do that, I had to get really, really good about focusing on productivity and time management. And so I know Ali Abdaal also had a journey where he was a med student and then he started his residency. And at the same time, he also had his very successful YouTube channel that he was building while he was in med school. And so I was really curious, what is his perspective on productivity? So let me just also say that I listened to the book on audiobook versus reading it with my eyeballs. And in the audiobook, it's really great. I do suggest that if you're going to read it, I really think that the audiobook is a good option because he has such an amazing voice. And I really love hearing people's words in their own voice and in their own tone. I think that it just does it such a service because it gives it such great inflection. And also, he has such an amazing voice and way of speaking. It's very soothing, but very motivational at the same time. So, the whole premise of feel good productivity is that it's easier to be productive when you like what you're doing. And I think that that makes sense. And I'm not trying to be reductive when I say that, but that is the message of the book. And I really enjoyed that he spent quite a bit of time talking about ways to find what you like and to go back to kind of that childlike joy of enjoying things you do, right? Enjoying play. And then how do you bring play into work and how do you find joy in work? And that particular message really resonated with me because as somebody who had a really, frankly, a very long corporate career, there were times where I had to remotivate myself and I had to re-energize myself. And I did that by I would always say, hey, I need to find the joy again. I need to re-anchor back into what I like and again find the joy in my work. His message is a little bit different than that though. He's actually suggesting you go through a process of maybe considering doing different work based on what you do like. And I think that that can be very valuable, but this is where he starts to lose me. So he spends the first few chapters of the book really reinforcing how much easier it is to be productive when you like what you're doing, which makes sense, right? Because you don't resist doing the activities, you enjoy doing it. Work can feel like play. And in an ideal world, the work that we're doing is something that brings us joy and something that we really do enjoy. Let me pause for just a second. I've got a message that says chat is unavailable and I don't know why. And so I really want to take questions from y'all. But if chat is available to you and if you're chatting at me, I just want you to know chat is not available to me. And I don't know why. And I hope it comes back soon because I really want this to be interactive. All right. So I do like the message that yes, it's easier to be productive when you like what you do. And I think it's valuable that he walks you through a few different ways to go back and figure out what it is that brings you joy. But other than that, like I said, the book really does lose me because I picked up the book for productivity. And I think that it's not actually a productivity book. I think it's a bit of a misnomer. And so, what I mean by that is later in the book, he does get into being able to set nice goals instead of smart goals. And he does re anchor into productivity a little bit. But I really value my time, as many of us do. And he spent so much time talking about doing what feels good and finding what feels good that I no longer was interested in what else he had to say in the book because we were never getting there. Like we were never getting to the actual productivity part. So I have to admit I DNF'd the book after that. And I've read about it. So I'm aware that he does get into some, again, nice goal setting, the nice system instead of the smart system. Don't ask me what it is because it's not what I do. And I would be interested in maybe like a more summary version of it, but it's a really roundabout way to get to it. And so I really didn't enjoy it as a productivity book. What I do think it is I think it's a bit of a book about finding yourself, right? And so if you're going into it looking for how to be productive at what you already do, it's just not that book. But if you're looking for a book that helps you really, anchor into your identity and find out what's important to you and what you enjoy doing and how you can craft a life around that, then it's a really valuable book. So I do think that it's a catchy title, Feel Good Productivity. And I do know that he built some of his original YouTube brand around productivity tips because he was a med student who also had this YouTube channel. But I want to talk about that for a second because I want to call out, and if you guys are Ali fans, please, I'm not trying to offend you. I am a fan of his. I really enjoy him as a person and as a YouTuber. And obviously he's very, very successful. But he became a famous and very wealthy YouTuber very young while he was in med school. And then he started his residency and quickly realized that that isn't what he wanted to do. He didn't actually want to practice medicine. He wanted to focus on YouTube full time, which is fine, right? But he was single, no kids, came from a fairly privileged background going into med school, and then came into his own money, right, by doing a YouTube channel. He had the luxury of taking a fairly long, thoughtful look at what he was doing because he had a lucrative potential medical career and an already lucrative YouTube channel. And he decided to do what brings him joy, basically. And then as Ali's career has grown, and since he's published the book, and I think he recently turned 30 and had a bit of like an introspective moment and is also changing the direction of his channel a little bit based on that. And so there's nothing wrong with any of this, but he's not in a position where he can relate to most people. And I think that that creates a position where most people can't relate to his book because most of us are not in a situation where we can do a significant pivot towards just doing work that we like and then we're more productive. And I say that because I would love it if we were, but most of us aren't. And so I don't know that he specifically recognizes his own privilege enough and talks about it because he's so in that privilege. I don't think, like I said, that he can relate to what it's like to be, a working adult with a mortgage. He didn't have a mortgage at the time. I think he still doesn't. And, after he published the book, he decided to be a digital nomad for a year. Like he has a lot of options open to him that are just not open to 99% of the population. So again, if you're in a position where you're making life changes or you're looking at what you might want to do directionally, that I think is a good moment for this book. And when I say that, I think that that touches on, well, who is this book for? Because it isn't for someone in their 30s or 40s who has children and is financially supporting a family and has a mortgage and needs to decide, is trying to figure out how can I be more productive with the responsibilities I have. You coach your kid's soccer team, like all of those adult responsibilities prevent us from making significant changes at those ages, right? Depending on when you started your career and started your family. But if you're early, if you're in college, if you're looking for what you want to do, if you're looking at graduation, or if you've graduated and you're also in a privileged position and you have the luxury of taking some time or doing kind of a busy work job, but also kind of contemplating some of these big questions, I think this is a great book for that period in your life. I also think it could be a great book if you are in what we colloquially refer to as a midlife crisis. So I will say that I know a significant number of people who are in a later stage of life where they're starting to shed some of these responsibilities. Their kids are in college or their kids are leaving college. They've gotten to a more financially stable place that they've built themselves, and they can now contemplate, can I do this big life change? And what's really interesting is that is the stage I was in, and it still kind of am in when I personally picked up the book. So you would think it would resonate with me. And the only reason I'm saying that it didn't was because I'd already decided what I was going to do when I was in this transition point. I'd already made that decision. I tend to make decisions quickly. But also because it was labeled as a productivity book, and I have to be honest, as somebody who had to be really, like, sweating blood in my time management and my productivity to juggle those many, many adult responsibilities, I was like, "This isn't about productivity. This isn't gonna help people who are in that situation," which is basically like, "Yeah, it's hard to be productive because you hate what you do, so go change your life." You know what I mean? Like, that really is the TLDR of this book. Sorry, Ali. And again, none of this is meant to be a personal criticism of Ali. I enjoy his message. I think that he deserves the money that he's made, and calling out that somebody comes from privilege isn't their fault, and they often don't know it, right? And but it does mean that it's not, like I said, a relatable book for people who aren't in those life stages. So again, if you are in that situation where you're a young adult just starting out and you've got the option of choosing what direction you want to take, I highly recommend picking up the book and figuring out how to find joy, and to make work fun and to choose things that are fun to be your work. That's awesome. Or if you're in a later stage of life and you are able to take a pause or take some time away from your career, or even just contemplate changing your careers in a meaningful way, this would be a good process to go through. Or if you happen to be from a financially privileged background or have already made a wildly successful and wealthy or wealth generating YouTube channel like Ali did, also good, right? But again, that's just not the experience of most people. So, would I recommend this book to most people? No. Do I have some friends that are also going through this kind of life stage thing that I just went through, or who are looking to do so, that I would possibly recommend the book to? Yeah, absolutely. Like, there are a couple people in my life who are really struggling with some of these questions around personal and professional identity and longer term goals. And honestly, that is really what does happen in a midlife crisis, is that you have an opportunity to say, what have I done so far and what do I want to do with the rest of what I'm doing? So unintentionally, I think he wrote a great book for people who are in midlife crisis trying to find their path. But I don't think those people are going to pick up this book because that's not how it's marketed and labeled. It's marketed and labeled as a productivity book, which it's not. So I think that if he did some rebranding of the book, that would be helpful, but he's not going to, because again, he built his own YouTube brand based on his productivity, and if he's launched the book based off of that. And I did kind of get the feeling that he wrote the book for his friends or for a younger version of himself more than he did, like I said, for the general population. But the book is doing well, and like I said, it is well written. His written voice is great. His actual speaking voice as the narrator for the audiobook is great. And personally, I just didn't have the patience for a book that didn't deliver the value I was looking for, which was to learn some productivity tips that I didn't already know so that I could be productive at what I've already chosen to do. And I do think that it's a good reminder to either re-anchor back into the job you have and see if you can find the fun in it, right? Or to switch directions. That's nice. I don't think you need a whole book for that. Like, I think you can just hear that and go with it. So unfortunately, chat is not working because I really want to take some questions. Let me see if I can do some troubleshooting to get chat to work, because I would love to hear from y'all um, about this. And I don't know how to fix it. So give me just a second. I apologize again, but I do not know how to get chat working. One second. I might just